Hello everyone and welcome to episode 39 of our game dev tutorials. Today we've got a pretty big one. We are going to be working on the options menu, or at least the very beginning of it. This is going to be a multi-part piece. This specific part is long. So buckle up guys, there's a lot in here. We're going to be starting some form input tools, the very simplest one, and I'll explain why we're starting with this one down in here. But this is a relatively big one, and it should help you guys progress with the polish and quality of your games. We are only going to be covering creating the form today. We're not going to be able to get to saving. This is already going to be a very long video, at least as far as how long it took me to prep it. I assume it's going to be long. What else? So we'll do saving on the next one. And we will be creating 3 different options, none of which do we have the final code for. So we will get an option to tell it whether it should be full screen or not. We will do an option for music volume, which obviously we don't have music, and we will do an option for sound volume, and we will cover those not too long. But we'll cover saving in the next tutorial, and then we will probably cover sound pretty shortly thereafter. Full screen will get in there. All these options will get in, but they're going to just take some time. Obviously, we don't have those things set up, and this is only one tutorial, so I can only do so much. So, all that covered. We have some new art. Let me grab that real fast. Where did I put it? Here we go. Just some arrows, not a big deal. You can find those in the description. The link to them. Cool. Got that out of the way. I guess we should just add it so we don't have to worry about it. Content. UI. Probably MISC. Where am I missing? There it is. There's MISC. Let's put them in MISC. Content copy if newer. Alright. Cool. Got those in. No big deal there. Just want to take a second and remind you guys that if you like the videos and you like this series, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps to get YouTube to spread us around and show new people what we're doing here. The bigger community we have, the more voices that we can get together, and that's helpful. You guys can find people that maybe you even like working with. Who knows? So yeah, hit that like button. It really does help. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. We are putting out a tutorial every week, and as you can see from the 38 previous, we are really starting to make progress in what it takes to make a game, and we would love for you guys to join us on that journey. If you haven't already, hit that notification bell, because when the new tutorials come out, the faster we can get some views up. Again, the faster that we can spread this community out and really kind of start helping people to grow this indie game community. I know it's already pretty big, but let's make it bigger. That's awesome. Okay. Past that, consider Patreon, especially if this is helping you guys in any professional capacity. Patreon really helps me to be able to spend a little bit of money on this channel. I'm not a rich dude. I don't have a bunch of money. And if you guys want this channel to keep improving and get better, Patreon is a great way to do that. Another way would be to check out, games that I've made in the past. Or Guilds of Delinar, which comes out in March. Yeah, guys, thank you so much, and let's get on with it. Let's discuss what the form items should be. First things first, let's go ahead and let's get ourselves a option menu created. So the options menu should be right next to the main menu. So there's main menu. At least that's the way I do it. Do it however you want, of course. We'll just shrink down gameplay. We're not even using that today. It goes right in source, add new item, option menu. Options? Yeah, fine. Options menu. Okay. This class is going to be a little bit, I don't want to say necessarily different. It's not crazy different. It's just slightly different in the use of, hold on. Where did my main menu go? Oh, what did I do? Closed gameplay, and now I can't see. This should not be in gameplay. That's what the problem is. Sorry about that, guys. I got a little bit sidetracked. These should all be... If you have that in there, it actually shouldn't. It should be alongside gameplay. These are kind of the same level bits here in my mind. I don't know why that was in there. That's a mistake. Okay. Now that that's worked through, let's get our includes in. Let's remove the extra namespace bits. Let's put public on here. This is actually important to put public on here because we are going to make this a global, and that's why it's a little bit different, but we'll get to that in a minute. And we'll talk about why we're doing that. So let's just start with getting our normal structure. So public options menu, public virtual void update, public virtual void draw. Okay, so obviously that's our most basic stuff there. As of right now, we are not producing the entire form control. Otherwise, this would be easy. We'd just say form control, and then we'd fill the form control with other stuff. But we're not going to be producing a form control all by itself. We are just going to be producing individual parts for now. Forms are complicated. Can't cover that all in one tutorial, so let's just start here, and then we'll build up later. Okay. We are going to need an exit button, obviously, because we need to be able to go back. So let's start with that. So button 2D, if I could type, that'd be good. Button 2D, exit button. Okay, and then we are going to need a list. We don't have it yet. List of arrow selectors. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then we'll need a font. Okay. So. Oh, these are in the complete wrong spot. I'm having a day, guys. I'm sorry. This is not my best shot here, obviously. But anyway, in here we need a button. We have buttons in the UI. Let's grab one right there. And we'll paste it in here, and we'll change the name, and it is a simple button, and we're going to call it exit. We are going to locate this at the center of the screen at the bottom. So globals dot screen width over 2 is the center of the screen, and globals dot screen height, let's say minus 100. Sure, that'll be the height spot. So that'll end up like right here in the screen. I mean, it says 1600 by 900 and I'm on 1080p, but you know what I'm saying. Like if it was this, it would be down here. Okay, we'll have our arrow selector stuff we have to deal with here, but we also want to do font. So, what do we do with font? We do font in UI, yeah? We do. There we go. Let's just copy it. Use whatever font that is. You guys can tweak this however you need to, but at least for now, that's there. Oh, and we don't have a function to pass into our button, so this will be public virtual void. Oh man, public virtual void. I don't know what happened there. Exit click. Yeah, let's do that. And because it's a coming from a button, we have to have object info, even if we don't use it, which we aren't going to use it. And then in here, we're going to say globals dot game state equals 1 or 0. I'm sorry, 0. Okay, so all the exit button does is take us back out to the game. Great. So this is the basic structure that we need at this moment. Oh, you know what we need to put? We need to update exit button. So exit button dot update, and then we'll just pass it in vector 2.0, and then same thing but draw down at the bottom. I think the problem is I'm trying to go fast because I know this is going to be a very long video. We're already at what? I don't know. We're already at like 16, 17 minutes, something like that. So that's already long for where we're at. All right, so this is our base menu. I mentioned we want it in globals, but which globals? Well, game globals only deals with this game's stuff, and globals deals with things that any game would need to know, including the engine itself. And so in that case, regular globals is what we want, because if you have sound features and stuff that are in your engine, then you're probably going to want to be able to detect what the sound volumes are, so on and so forth. So we're going to put this in regular globals, not game globals. Okay, so that's game globals there, regular globals up here, and we are going to just, it doesn't really matter where you put it in, just find a good spot for it. Let's see, it's options menu. Okay, so we've created that there. We are going to initialize it in world. No, not world. In main. And we'll do that right alongside our other major things here. So globals dot options menu equals new. It's option menu. Just like we have the state 0, state 1, we are going to have a state for option menu. Okay. Globals. Globals.optionMenu.update. Good. Let's take this. Let's put it in here. And change it to draw. Okay, so you can see these are different. And the reason for that is you are going to want access to these options everywhere. You could create the menu as its own thing and have a packet of data for the options, and I used to actually do it that way. But it just creates syncing issues at times, and if you're not careful, you're making bugs that you shouldn't have, and it's just, this I've found is slightly better, even though it's uglier when you're pulling the data out. It seems to be much easier to use. So I'm thinking currently this is the better way to do it. Now, this is one of those things I've only tried 2 variations. So I used to do it in 2 separate bits. One was a packet of data in globals with an option menu separate, but then again syncing those up was a bit of an issue at times. And this one I have not had any syncing issues because you can't. It's just one form and you're pulling the data out of it. But again, much uglier to work with unless you put a lot of time into making it pretty. Okay, so this is the way I'm going for it. You guys can change it. I just gave you another idea of how you can change it, but this is how we're going to go for it with this tutorial. If you don't understand what I mean by that, maybe I'll try to explain it when we fish this data out. Okay, so we have the option menu. We are drawing the exit button. A good thing that maybe to draw would be a title. Just call it options or whatever. And then maybe... No, that should be good. That's enough. Let's just do a simple little piece of text to say this is options. So for that, we will say we need to get the dimensions because we want to center this thing. Equals font dot measure string, and then the word options colon. Hold on, I actually need to. I don't like what I have in my prompt. No, well, I think that's better actually. No colon. No colon. Just says options. We're good. Globals dot sprite batch dot draw string font options, and then we need to get the position. We'll get that in a second, and then color we'll just use white. I got white. Okay, positioning. We want to center it. So how do we center text? Well, first we get the center of the screen, and then we subtract the x dimensions. So str dimensions dot x over 2. That's how we center it. And then we want to drop it off at the top because we want to see it. So let's drop it off by, well, let's probably drop it off by the same amount that we dropped, that we raised our button from the bottom, which was 100. So let's do it that way. And then now we should be able to test this. We should have a menu that goes backwards and forwards. After, what, 20 plus minutes of code, we should have a menu that goes back and forth. So, oh, that was not the right one. And, of course, sometimes that crashes when in debug. So let's try that again. Oh, we don't have the button in main menu. That's why I clicked the wrong button. It didn't exist. Main menu needs a new button, right? So let's do that. Let's say I don't know what that takes in. Well, let's do it the way I did it in the prompt. Even if this may work if you put a 2 in it. You know what? Let's try that. Let's just try that. Why not? This one is options. Let's try this first, and if it doesn't work, then I'll go back and do it the way I put it in the prompt. Let's see. Options. Click. Oh, it worked. Good. Options, and then we hit exit, and we come back. So we have our forward and backwards functionality, which is good. Awesome. Great job. Next, we need to create our form parts. So let's create the piece that's good, should be used in just about any form data type. Any type of thing that is a form should use this structure, I think, at least. Even if not, you can simplify it out, but or expand upon it and overwrite it, so on and so forth. Okay, so we have data types, we have input, and we have output. You could say it would be input, but if you can tell, we're using like input devices mostly in input. So a form is, I mean, it's somewhere between input and a data type. They're both. So putting it where you want to, I can understand putting it either place. I am going to put it in data types. So I'm going to create a folder for forms. And then inside forms, I'm going to create a new, and then we're going to call it a form option. And I think this will suffice when we're, in a minute when we're done with this, for pretty much anything a form needs to be able to do. But if not, just overwrite it. It's not a big deal. Create a child class of it, and then you can stuff it into whatever form you need to. Okay, so public, we added the includes, we removed the namespace, we added public. Now we're doing the normal kind of setup form for a packet. So we don't need update and stuff like that. We just need the constructor. And we talked about needing a name, so public string name, and then we have for the option, that it's a name for the option, and then we have public object, so we can take in anything, value. Okay, so we have a string and we have value. That's what we have. So let's make sure we can pull those in. String name, object value. And then name equals name, value equals value. Okay, so it's super simple, but it's just a packet of data that allows you to deal with incoming information from the form. So you can set this up, and you can use it, set it up for what goes into the form, and then you can view it for output for what the values and everything are. Okay. Now that we have this, we need to start on our arrow selector. So this is going to be a decent amount of code here, especially since we're already, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes into this. Okay. And again, guys, I apologize for this going so long. I just didn't know how else to break this down further so that we could actually create something that's somewhat meaningful. I mean, this isn't even going to be connected to our game at the end of this, but at least it should give you guys an idea of how to get started and how to get going. And I know that it's been requested a bajillion times for me to get to saves, and this felt like a good way to get to the save functionality, because saving an XML file from your options is basically exactly the same as saving an XML file for your game. So, alright, public arrow selector. There we go. We are going to need an update, so public virtual void update, and that will take in a vector2 for offset. And then public virtual void draw, and again that will use vector2 offset. So let's grab that, put it there. Okay, so basic structure, nothing special. What do we need for an arrow structure? So arrow selector, I'm sorry. So we go back here, we need 2 buttons for arrows. We need the list of form options, and we need to know which form option we're in. So we need the list and the iteration that we're currently on, so the selected iteration, and then we need the title. So we have a string, 2 buttons, a list of form options, and an int for what's selected. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's start with the simplest thing, which is the int, and that's just selected. You can make this public, you don't have to. Let's just do it for now. You really shouldn't be looking at this data from outside of it. You should be asking the control what's selected, but that's... I promise not to get into too much of the detail with public and private. Maybe one day I'll do some C# stuff, so let's just keep it simple. Even though right now it's that one, for whatever reason, is bothering me. Because it really should not be accessed from outside the class. Okay, string title. That one should be public because you need to be able to. Should be. It's helpful that it's public because you can look up what it is. It's kind of the name of the whole class here, and at times you'll want to look things up by that. Public vector2. So, we need to know the position, right? Duh. That's why I have a prompt. So this whole thing is one thing, one object, and so the position's here, and your dimensions are from here to here, right? So we need to know what this is in order so we can set all this up, and I'll explain that in a second. So let's get our position, and then our dimensions. We need a list of buttons. That's just the 2 arrows, but I like to do it in a list. So public list button 2D buttons equals new list buttons. Good. And then, like I said, we need a list of form options. Options equals new list form option. Okay. So this is the things that we needed in order to create this structure. It's not a lot of things, but it's also not, 1 or 2 things. So take a second, think through it again, understand why we need these things, and then let's start thinking about what we need to initialize this thing. Well, we need to know where it's going on the screen, so that's position, right? We need to know its dimensions, and we need to know its title. And that's all we actually need to initialize this thing. And then you're going to say, but Chris, we don't have any options in this thing. What are you thinking? Well, we need to add, the options are not always going to be the same. Now, you could create an overridden version of this that has that takes in like some set of data that always exists, like maybe 1 through 10, 1 through 100, something like that. And that would be fine. But I want a variable one here. Like, I want one that I can use to gather any data out of some predefined set of data, in which case I can't predefine what that data is in this class, even though I said it's predefined data. What I mean predefined data, I mean I hard-coded it into the game or used an XML file to pull it in. It is not dynamic data. It is data that is set. Like, for instance, resolutions. You're not going to have... shouldn't say that. It will be a long time until you guys should be comfortable enough to have dynamic screen resolution stuff. In fact, I don't even do it with my games. It's too much work. Some AAA games do. So I know that that's kind of what they're doing with Warcraft 3 Remastered. That's kind of the whole point. By the way, super excited for that. I just want to throw that out there. I'm not being paid by Blizzard, but that is my favorite game of all time, is Warcraft 3. So if anybody's wondering what my favorite game of all time is, it's Warcraft 3. So I was super stoked to see that they're redoing it, even though Blizzard is rapidly losing credibility in my mind. That game is still my favorite of all time, and therefore a remastered version of it that works well on a modern PC makes me happy. But anyway, one of the things they're doing is adding dynamic resolutions, and that is awesome if you have the manpower to sit and do something like that. I don't. You probably don't. And it's not that you couldn't do it, it's that it takes a lot of time, and it's going to create a lot of bug hunting for you until you get it perfect. Okay. So, because we're not using dynamic resolutions, you're going to have very specific resolutions that your game is made for. And so this information is not dynamic. It is set to the exact instances of screen resolution that you want. That's the example I'm going to give for this, even though we're not going to have that tool yet, because doing screen resolution requires more things for me to show you guys. So we'll build up to that. That is something I will cover in the future. It's just something I can't get to right now. Okay. So we have these inputs. That was a whole long discussion on stuff that is the future. So let's get back to our task at hand. So title we can just set because it's right there, title. Same thing for dimensions and position. So pose equals pose, stems equals stems, and selected to start out with is equal to 0. Why? Because if you're gonna even have one thing in the game and in the arrow selection, then it's gonna be 0. So that's the most likely to be of a correct value, a valid value. Okay. We need the buttons. So we did buttons in here, so let's just grab a button. In order to change this into the list, we just take our list, we take out everything equals sign and before, when we say add, so and then a paren, and we go to the end and we put a paren. Okay, we'll get to this in a second. Let's talk about what we want for our thing here. Okay, so you're not going to see this edge, but let's say the button is like this, right? This is the button. This is the button. So we defined the dimensions for this whole thing. It would make a lot of sense if we use those dimensions. Boy, that's dumb. I hate that delete doesn't just do white. I wish they had a different tool for... My Photoshop skills are awesome. Sorry, guys. It would be awesome if we were using the height of our box here as the height of our buttons, right? So that's what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to define the height of these buttons to make them bigger or smaller based on the space that's defined. And actually, our dimensions are actually only to here, because this is how I programmed it, and then this is just extra on the side, because this is actually not how you normally are going to want to do this title part, but it's just, there's only so much I can go into in one tutorial. We're already vastly past where the average user listens to, so yay. Okay, yeah, we talked about that, let's do that now. So our dimensions, what is that that we're making our dimensions? Our dimensions are the dims of the entire box, the height of them. Does that make sense? So here's our dimensions of the height of the box. Well, we want to match that to our button. That's what we did. Here's the dimensions coming in, and here we are saying the X and Y, because this is a square button, are the dimensions of the box. This saves you from having to enter in the exact dimensions of the arrows here, and then having to worry about that when you go to display it, and so on and so forth. So this is a faster, easier way to do things, and it allows for... The limitations are that it uses square buttons. So if you want to use non-square buttons, that's a limitation. And then the other limitation is that you don't really control the size of these. You can still. You can... After constructing this, you can change these, but those are your two limitations. But it's much faster and easier to use, and I like to do it. So, yeah. Okay, so this is going to be our left button. So let's grab that, and it goes right here. And then our positioning. Well, that's an interesting one, right? Where are we putting this thing? Well. Probably want to center it. Yeah, let's center it. So, globals.screenWidth/2. Now we're in the center. I drop it down. I don't know. Oh no, we want to center it on the menu. We don't want to center it here. Okay, hold on. Let me think. We have... Yeah, so we're already going to be at pose. So we need to center this button. Or no, this button goes on the side. That's right. Let's look. So this button, so remember the dimensions is only this. This button goes on the side, but inside the side. So it's minus half dims plus half dims. So half the dims of the button. What's half the dims of the button? That's dims Y. So minus dims, half dims X plus half dims Y. And this one is plus half dims X minus half dims Y. That's what we're doing. Okay. Sorry that took me a second. So this one is minus dims X over 2 and then plus dims Y over 2. Why am I dims Ying? Why am I using these dims? Well, because these dims don't exist yet. Otherwise, you would use the dimensions of the button, but they don't exist yet. So I'm using the same value, if that makes sense. Okay, still not going to deal with that yet. Well, why not? Let's just deal with it. So we need the click, so it's like left click, left button click, left arrow left click. Yeah, let's do that. Public virtual void arrow left click. So I called it arrow left because that's arrow left, so that's why I called it arrow left instead of left arrow click. I just matched the text there, and then this one has to do object info, and then that one can go here. We copy and paste this mamma jamma. This is arrow right. This is plus minus, so we're doing exactly the opposite thing that we did here. This, we need no text, so let's get rid of that real fast. And we're gonna need arrow right click. So sounds like a right click. It's not a right click. It's just arrow right click. Okay, and then we'll put that one in. Cool. This is our arrow selector. Yay! We still have to fill in all of the stuff, but we at least have instantiated our arrow selector. Again, guys, I'm sorry this is going long. This is probably going to end up my very longest video, but I was having trouble breaking this down into meaningful parts for you guys, into smaller chunks than they are. When you guys ask for specific topics, sometimes that topic, we're like 5 or 10 topics away, and I can break them down nicely. This one is a hard one to break down, so sorry. I'm working on it. Doing the best I can here. Oh, we're looping our buttons. I'm sorry. I was supposed to tell you guys that. My brain I just started programming. I apologize. We're looping our buttons right now. That's what we're doing. So we are doing buttons.count I++, buttons I dot update, and then we have offset plus pose. Why do we have offset plus pose? Well, the offset is where we are, how we are offsetting the screen. Let's say that you have this piece and you can scroll. Well, you want to be able to offset it. That's offset. And then position is where it actually is on the standard screen. And so those two things combined add up to where this thing is supposed to be. Let's take that. Let's paste it down here in draw and switch it to draw. We're going to draw in the same place that we update, so that's good. All right, so let's talk for a second about what we want to do on these arrow clicks. Okay, if I click this arrow up, then I want to increment selected up 1. If I click it down, I want to decrement selected 1. Now, what happens when you get to the smallest and the highest value? Not value, but the highest iteration. Well, you can either wrap it, meaning you click the top one and you're already at the highest iteration and then it goes back to 0. You click this one when it's at 0 and it goes up to the highest value, which is count -1. But we're not going to wrap it. I'm just going to stop it and ignore it. I'm going to ignore the click. I'm actually not going to ignore it. I'm going to reset it because it actually solves more bugs if you reset it to the max value or the min value. And that's because when I use an arrow selector in a game, I expect it to stop and not wrap so that I know when I'm done going through the list. One thing you'll see this used for is like picking like a guild emblem, like picking an image for something, right? The King's Bounty does it, right? You're picking your emblem and you're clicking the arrow and it's going through, but it wraps. And so that bothered me because there's so many emblems, I wasn't sure that I hadn't seen that there wasn't some small difference between what I was seeing and what I had already seen. That makes sense. So I don't like these to wrap. You can make them wrap. Making them wrap is easy, and I'll tell you how to do it. I'm just not going to for this. We are doing left click. That's decrement. So selected -, and then if selected is less than 0, selected equals 0. Oh, not 2 equals 1 equal. Okay, so this just, you could accidentally set this thing to -1,000,000. It's just going to put it back to 0. Okay? And that's the extra bugs and the edge cases that this deals with. If you just ignored it when it was less than 0, then, or if selected is 0 and you're here, then it just ignores it, then it doesn't fix itself. Okay? If you wanted to wrap this, instead of 0 here, you would say count -1. So options count -1. Okay, let's do this. Let's copy it, paste it. This needs to increment instead of decrement because we're clicking on the right one now. And this is greater than or equal to options.count. And then if so, we're going to say options.count -1. So if you wanted it to wrap, you switch this and this. That's it. It's the only difference. If you want it to wrap, do that. I don't want it to wrap. You could even have a flag in here that allows it to wrap, like a bool, and it says like wrap, and then you can have the like standard like equals to true, and then flip it to false or whatever. You can do whatever you want. This is the way I want it, so that's why I'm doing it this way. Okay. The draw is going to get a little crazy. We mentioned wanting to add options. This should also be protected. I don't hardly make anything private, I'll be honest, but it should be protected. So adding options we should do here. So public virtual. Boy, man, I'm doing horrible. Public virtual void add option, and then this is going to be a form option. Form option. There we go. And then options plus add. I'm sorry. Options.add form option. It doesn't do anything here, but there is a high likelihood that eventually you are going to want to do more than just add it when you're adding. At least for some form tools. So let's get used to doing it this way, so all of our code lines up. Okay. Done that. That's great. We've done that. We've done that. We did link those here. We got to draw all this stuff now. So we drew our buttons. Cool. They're where we want them to be. Now, when we go to draw text, we need to get that code that resets our shader. So let's grab that. I just remember that it's in UI, so I just always go grab it from there. And since it's already open, that works great. So we need to reset. So we drew buttons. Now we're resetting it so that we can draw our text. Okay. When we're drawing text, we're almost always going to want to know what the string dimensions are. And in this case, I think we'll draw a name first. So let's do font. Oh, we don't have font. Mistakes were made. We need to pass in font. So we want all the fonts to match. And if all the fonts are matching, P-R-I-T, thank you. Man, I'm having the worst dyslexia right now, guys. I apologize. Okay, that's there. Our string dimensions are font.measureString. And then in here, we're going to say options.selected. No, options, brackets, selected. .name. Well, that's a good way to break your game. So let's go in here and say if. So I just stuffed something in here that's not error checked. It's not a good idea. So selected. No, not selected. If options.count is greater than selected, and selected is greater than or equal to 0. So those are the two things. That bounds us within the right size for our array. Now, if this isn't true, we're just not going to draw any of this. And this doesn't break anything then. So cool, we've gotten that. Now we need the sprite batch draw. We just did that in here, in options. So let's grab that. I don't want to retype the whole thing. Okay. What are we putting in? Well, we're putting this in. We know that. Font is all capitals now because it's passed in. But that's all correct. Not the height part. The height part we need to subtract half the string dims of y. Over 2. Okay, there we go. So that centers it. Okay, so if we look at what we're doing, Name is centered between these two arrows. So we're centering it on position. We need to tell it that though. Offset. So this is the position that we're starting with, right? So offset plus pose plus, right? So that'll draw that between, and then we need to draw our title. Well, cool. We're just gonna do this again. So let's do all of this except for the vector 2 because it's already declared. And instead of name, we have title. And that'll keep it on the same height, so let's leave it there. Start with the same position. Doesn't like title. Why don't you like title? Oh no, because it's just title, not option title. There we go. That's fine. Let's just do that. And we want to draw that mamma jamma right over here. So this is the edge of our thing, so it's like a little bit of extra space and then the size of the text. That's what we need to do. Title also happens, we want to probably have the colon on it, so it's plus that. Let's put that in here. Okay, so that's not right. This is not correct. That is just... There's no centering it on the screen. Copy pasting sometimes can be a pain in the patooshi. Can't say the other words because YouTube gets mad at you. But this time we're going to do all of X. So all... No, we're not. We're going to do all of X here. Okay, so let's think it through. We want to do half the dimensions of this box and then all of the dimensions of the string. So half the dimensions of the bar of the total dimensions. So dems dot x over 2, and that's a minus there, minus here, minus the full dems of the string, and we're going to minus 10 on top of that. So that gives us a little space between the colon and this. So we'll have a little space here. It'll look nicer that way. Okay. Sorry that took so much time, but sometimes I've got to struggle through things too. That all looks correct. So now what we should have is, I think that's a working selector. As far as my brain is telling me, that should be a working arrow selector. So we need to create one. Let's create one here in options, and then we'll place it, and then we'll create the other two as long as it's working. So let's say list. This is public for sure. Public list, arrow selector. There we go. Arrow selectors. Yeah, let's just do that one. New arrow selector. Cool. And then we are going to add these arrow selectors here. We're going to say arrow selectors dot add new arrow selector. We need a position and dims and title. So let's think this through real fast. Title is, we're going to just call it full screen for now. And then our dimensions are going to be new vector 2. Let's just do 32 high. That'll give us 32 high buttons. That's plenty. And then, so if they're 32 high, they're 32 wide. 2 buttons at 64. So maybe double that to 128 for now. That should be good enough. And then here we're just going to say, probably just in the middle of the screen somewhere. So new vector 2. This won't be perfectly centered because the title part doesn't center properly, but that's okay. We'll deal with that another time, or you can spend some time going through that. So globals dot screen width over 2, and then 300. Sure, let's go with that. And then okay, arrow selector. Arrow selectors dot count -1 dot add option. Remember, this is how you get the end thing, the thing you just added. So count -1 is that, and then here we're going to say new form option, and then we're going to have no 0, and then we'll copy that. We'll paste it here. We have yes 1. Okay, so we have that. Now we need to loop it for the update and the draw. So for int I equals I equals 0, I less than arrow selectors dot count I plus plus. Okay, that's good. And then we just need to say arrow selectors I dot update. And there's an offset there. I think it's just vector 2 0 is probably what we want. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Take that. We draw it. Probably draw it below the font so that we don't have to go get that other thing again. Draw. Okay. Oh, it wants the font too. I forgot. Sorry. There we go. Let's see if this runs. I know that was a ton of code to get here, guys. I totally understand that's a lot. That's not correct. Let's see if they at least work. They do work. We have messed up our vertical positioning. Our horizontal positioning is good. And then if we click this a bunch of times, still says no. Click this a bunch of times, still says yes. So let's fix our horizontal alignment here. Arrow selector. It doesn't have to do with these. It must have to do here. We didn't set the Y value. I'm having a day, guys. I'm having a day. Okay, there we go. We're good now. Okay, so let me explain why that was a problem. If you don't set the Y value separate from the X value, both values end up exactly the same. This one reduced the X, so it also reduced the Y, and this one added to the X, so it also added to the Y, so then you end up that weird offset. It's a mistake I don't usually make, but I did here. So, alright, this is all working. We have a working arrow selector. Let's add 2 more, because they're things we're going to get to in the relatively near future. I would say within the next 5 to 6 tutorials we'll start on sound. So let's just get those values set so that we can get them saving in the next one, and then we can get them interpreting thereafter. Okay, so first things first, we need another arrow selector. We need to drop it down to 400 so that they have some space. You can change this, make sure it's nice all you want, do what you want to do with it. So we'll call this one music volume, and then we have a loop on this one because you can make your volumes, some specific range, right? So int I equals 0, I less than 31 will get us all the way up to 30, so 0 to 30, probably good enough. Do what you want there, but that's what I'm doing. And then in here, we are going to take this here, and we are going to say string plus I. It's a concatenation of a string to an int, and it works. And then I. So this will get us music volume. Let's just copy paste this. It is wise to have something different. So this is music volume. This is sound volume. You could even do a master volume on top of this. and same thing here. Okay, so this is all of that. Let's check it, make sure our work is working. Options. Ooh, they start at 0. You probably don't want to start yours down to 0. So maybe we do this. We say arrow selectors, arrow selector.count -1, and then we say selected equals arrow selector, either your max or in the middle. So let's do this. Let's say let's do it in the middle. Arrow selectors.count -1 dot options dot count over 2, and then let's make sure that's an integer because it's supposed to be. So that'll give us the value right in the middle to start with. If you want, you can just do the max, but I figured I'd do this piece of code just so you guys can see it, and it's the exact same piece of code here. And let's see what it gives us now. I think it's 15, right? Yeah, 15. So now we can go up. Let's click. Won't go above 30. That's good. And won't go below 0. We already tested it with the other one, so I'm sure it works. Okay, guys, that is it for today. I know this is a long one. I understand. I have tried not to keep them this long, not to let them get this long, but it's going to happen sometimes. Hopefully you guys now have an idea of how to start an options menu. If you wanted to do extra work and kind of test yourself, come up with the options that you're going to want. Put them in here. Get them started. Arrow selectors should be able to handle any kind of input. They're not necessarily they're not the best input for most things. Not necessarily. It's rare that they are the best input, but they are super versatile. They're a good input pretty much all the time. So you should be able to do your entire options list this way, and then as we add new form tools, you should be able to replace them with the ones that you like better. I use this one to start with because it's the easiest and most versatile of all of them. So there you go. That should get you started. So think of other options that you would want in your game and just add them. Put them in. And you probably can shrink the space in here. You can get as many as you need in here. Resolution sizes would be one of them. You could do things like game speed, or you could do things like gosh, I don't even know. Just there's lots of things you can do here. So add them, put them in, spend a little bit of time thinking of the options you want in your game, because as you're going to see, once you put options like this in your game, then you have to link them up to your game, which we will get to probably 2 tutorials from now. Okay, so next tutorial will be saving our options to an XML file and loading them. So saving and loading. That's what we're doing. Well, if it's too long, I'm going to split those up. Do saving and then do loading. But I don't think it'll take too long. I think probably 25 to 30 minute video on that and doing saving and loading. But if it goes too long, then we'll just do saving and then we'll just do loading. So I want to keep them not this long. Okay, and then one thing this menu doesn't have yet is your options shouldn't actually change state until you hit save. So you want to save the original state that you came to the page with. So when you clicked this button here and you set this here, you're going to want to save the state of the option menu. And if you hit exit, main menu, where'd it go? What'd I do? If you hit exit without saving, so create a save button, then it reverts back to the old stuff. So that would be something that you can try. I've been asked to try to give you guys ideas of how of little projects to do with each tutorial. That's a project you can do with the tutorial. We'll get to it at some point, but that is something you can do. So you want to save this data the way it is, all of the values, and then if you hit exit, you need to put those values back in to your tools, and if you hit save, then you need to essentially save the new data to the copy of data, which would be the current settings. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Alright guys, if you liked this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you are not subscribed, please do so. If you stayed this long into the video, then hopefully I am helping you. So hit that subscribe button. We got lots of more topics to deal with. Hit that notification bell to make sure that you know when the new tutorials come out. The faster that it gains views, the more widespread YouTube spreads these videos to, and the more people we can help. And the bigger community we can get together, and the bigger community we get together, the better that you guys, the more people you guys will be in contact with to help each other out, aside from just me. And I'll be here, of course, but yeah. If you have a comment, drop it down in the comments. You guys know by now that I'm going to, 90+% of the time I'm going to respond to it. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know if you like where we're going with these tutorials. Just tell me that you like it. That gives me confidence that I'm doing the right thing to help you guys. Also, if you have topics that you want covered, tell me. Some of you guys do. You're doing a great job of telling me, and I'm building up a nice big list of things to do, and that's awesome. If it's been, let's say, 10 or 15 tutorials since I've gotten to something you've asked for, tell me again. Right? I forget things, and sometimes I forget to put them on a list. So just tell me. Past that, Patreon, guys, please help out if you are so inclined. It will really up the quality of this channel and give us a better chance of reaching more people, as well as, I'm going to have art made and give that out to you guys. So all of that kind of thing, it really does help me out and the channel out. I can't really spend a bunch of money on this channel. I don't have it. So anything you guys give, we'll reinvest it in the channel, and it'll be great. And that will again in turn reinvest in the community. So cool, guys. I will see you guys next week when we will finally get to saving things. All right, see you guys next time.